now that we've gotten through all of it, we've gotten through Einstein, you've studied some quantum, we've read Camus, we've read Beckett, we've talked about ontological time and encephalitis lethargica, we've gotten all of that done. How do you put it together? How do you make it work? How do you answer the four questions for the modern world? So let's give it a try, right? Question one, what is the structure of time? I think we can say precisely that we can't be precise. That in the modern world, time is always relative, but relative to what is the issue? Is it relative to an Einsteinian idea of special relativity or general relativity? Is it relative to philosophical ideas of change and not change and outside of time and inside of time? Is the whole question absurd? Or is the whole question answered differently for each one of us as we move through our own lives and we have our own internal and external clocks? So my answer to you, in a way, is I don't have an exact answer. But I think that's a good modern answer. That the answer really is, what is the structure of time? Maybe. What is the structure of time? Yes. What is the structure of time? It's relative. Not a very quick answer, maybe, but I think it's the best one we can think of for the modern world. And most importantly is to get this idea in our heads that time is, if everything else relative, the one thing it is not absolute. So, the next question then, can humans predict the future? Well, there's a way, I suppose, that we can predict the future, right? So in special relativity, we can predict our future by knowing how quickly or how slowly we're going, by knowing what our relative frame of reference is compared to something else. In the quantum world, as you learn from that just wonderful film, Dr. Quantum, in that quantum world, we get to predict the future by choosing if we want something to be a wave or a particle. That our observing the system actually changes the system. That system, that whole time at the subatomic level is actually not one thing or another, but it is rather a wave of probabilities. Again, it's not something that is absolute, it is something probable. But because of that, we can, at least in part, predict some of the things that might happen with better or worse probability, better or worse relativity, but we can make some predictions. Therefore, if we can make some predictions, we have indeed some sort of control of the future. That there is a future that we're controlling by our speed, by our position, by our looking at things in the quantum world. But couldn't you also answer this question and say, can you control the future? No, because the future and the past and the present are different for each one of us. So you might say, I'm going to control my future, but my future is somebody else in some other time's past. So then it's not really the future, is it? Or is it just our future? Or is it my future? And not, it makes your head spin, right? But if you ask the question, can you control the future? I think we can say, in some ways, depending on how you define future, kind of. Finally, though, in the fourth question, I can absolutely, positively give you an answer. Is time external, internal, or both? And the answer is both. If we think about relativity, it is both external to us, how other things are moving, and internal to us, our speed and frame of reference. Same thing with quantum. External and internal, we're making decisions about what happens. And we know without question in both the literature and the psychology that we read that time is somehow directly related to us, right? For Rose R., for Jimmy, those are things that show time as an ontological, not a chronological existence. So I think the one thing we can know from understanding or at least exploring the modern world of time is that time really is a relative thing, and it is relative not just external to us, but internal to us too.